welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Kyla, and in this video we're going to talk about all the books that I read in April, which, if I'm being honest, is not as much as I thought it was going to be. But I had a really great reading month overall, so I'm actually so happy about it. I found some new all-time faves that will definitely be on like my favorites list of the year. I cannot wait to share them with you, although you probably already know what they are. If you follow me on Instagram, which if you're not, I will have it linked below, you should definitely do so because it's a good time over there. It's a good time over there. Before we get into the books, we are going to start off with my monthly reading stats. This is something that I started doing this year, and I really love doing it. I love nerding out with the numbers, so we're going to start there with all of the nerdy stuff. You guys seem to really be liking this, so I'm definitely going to continue. Let's just get to the numbers first. I had to switch bullet journals this month, so I actually only have the stats on my phone, which is not as like pretty and exciting. It's fine. It's fine. There's 1 month. It's not drawn out pretty. It's not the end of the world. All right, kicking it off. So I read 8 books. I did have 2 DNFs, so technically 10 total, but 8 read, 2 DNFs. I read 2,951 pages. My genres this month were romantasy, thriller, mystery, 1 lit fic / contemporary, Who Is She, and a manga. I read 6 adult, and 4 of them were YA / new adult. We're like crossing the borders here. I don't know what to call it anymore. 5 of them were from the library, 4 of them were from my physical TBR, and 1 of them was from the library, and I immediately went out and bought a copy of it because that's how much I loved it. 2 of them were straight up audiobooks, 7 of them were audio and physical, and 1 of them was just physical, being the manga. 2 of them were backlist, and 8 of them were new releases, meaning 2023 and 2024, which is a lot. But last month I had more backlist, I think, so we're balancing out here. I'm trying not to like always just read new releases because there are so many books out in the world that are so good that I have definitely like missed out on over the years, but like, you know, there's a balance. And then we have the actual like star ratings. So I had 1 2-star, yikes. We finally broke the cycle, and I only had 2 3-stars this month. If you've been following along, I literally have had 3 3-stars literally every single month. We broke the cycle, so we have 2 3-stars, 3 4-stars, and 2 5-stars. So the majority of my reads this month, and then obviously, like I said, the DNFs, but the majority of my reads this month I really enjoyed, and that makes me so happy. So that is all for the stats. Now let's get into the books. I'm gonna go in order of star rating, like I usually do. And I just have so many good ones to talk about, so let's just go ahead and get into it. So let's talk DNFs first. The first one, I am closing the chapter officially on the Finley Donovan series. I tried to read Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice, and I just can't do it. I can't do it anymore. And like, I am one of the people, the rare few who actually like really enjoyed the first 2 books. I feel like everyone really loved the first one, and then their enjoyment kind of fell off. I really enjoyed the first 2, and then I didn't find the third one as polarizing as everyone else did. I think it was because it reminded me of one of my favorite movies, FAVES. It's from like the 80s. It's about 2 women who go through the FBI police academy, and like, it's so funny and cheesy and just over the top, and that book reminded me of that. So I think that's where my enjoyment came from, not from necessarily like the story overall, but just like the ridiculousness of it. However, I normally can like get behind ridiculousness, but this is just gone too far. She's gone off the rails. We've lost the main plot of the book, and it's just not enjoyable to me anymore. There was just way too much over the topness, even within, I think I made it like, I want to say maybe 75 pages. I was listening to it on audio, so I'm not exactly sure the page count, but like somewhere in there, or I think it was like, maybe I was like 28% of the way through the book or something like that, and I just can't. That first 28%, like, still ridiculous, still over the top. We're not getting any sort of like main mystery answers, and we have way too much of Stephen still, and like, I just can't get behind that anymore. And knowing that this is a series that is going to continue for 3 or 4 more books, I just can't do it. So we're officially closing the Finley Donovan chapter. I am happy that I loved the first one as much as I did, but I'm ready to move on. And then my next DNF is actually a book that I pulled out of my unhaul pile. It had been sitting on my shelf. I literally got this in my first book of the month box ever, so which is like a few years ago now. It's been sitting on my shelf ever since, and I was like, maybe someday, because when I first started reading, I read more contemporary slash lit fic, and then I fell away from it, and then I unhauled it, but it just sat there. It was up on my Pango, nobody bought it, so it's just been sitting in my unhaul pile, and I finally decided, you know what, I'm just gonna pull it back out. Maybe someday I'll try it again. I did try it, and I didn't like it. And that is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I really wanted to love this because of the cover. It's so cute, and it was just so springtime, so I felt like it would be the perfect time to pick it up, but unfortunately, I just did not connect with the characters in here. I don't really enjoy the writing style either. There's like no distinct chapters, like no chapter numbers really. It's just one kind of continuous story. I mean, there's breaks, but there's not like number chapters, and I don't know. It just, the writing style was not my favorite, and the way it just felt so choppy while I was reading it. It was really hard to like, and I was reading it physically too, not just through the audiobook, but I just felt like it was really hard to kind of like follow along. I will say I enjoyed that it takes place in New England and Boston specifically, but I just felt like our main character was very much like, woe is me, and like not like other girls, and it was so dramatic, and it just didn't feel that dramatic of a story to me. Maybe I didn't read enough of it, but I got into, I want to say like 100 pages into this. It was close to, it was like the 90 something mark, and I can see this hitting home for a certain person, but for me it just didn't work. So we are going to officially unhaul it. I think I will put this in a free little library because I think that someone will find joy in it, but that person is not me. Then we have a 2-star, which makes me so sad, but I'm just not having great luck with thrillers right now, and it's really upsetting me. And I was really excited for this one. I was really hoping that this was going to like bring back my love of thrillers. I've been on such a fantasy kick, and I've really enjoyed mysteries, but thrillers have just missed out for me. I did find one this month that I like, so we'll talk about that. But this one made me really sad. However, I wasn't sure that I was 100% going to like it, and that is Murder Road by Simone St. James. I've only read one other Simone St. James before, so I can't say that like this is a huge disappointment, that she's like an all-time favorite author and this like made me so sad. I can't say that because that's not accurate. But what I will say is I was really looking forward to it. It did sound like something that I was really going to enjoy. And knowing that most of her books have that paranormal trope, I knew it going into it, so I wasn't surprised by that. But this just did not work. These characters are the absolute worst. Like, they are truly the worst, and they think entirely too, I don't want to say they think too highly of themselves, but that's the only way I can think to like describe it right now. It's just so convoluted. The story is so convoluted, and I did not enjoy it. There are so many plot holes within this book. So in this book, we are following a newly married couple. They are going to this small town, to this little inn they heard about, and while they are on the road, they're like on a road trip, and while they're driving, they come across this woman on the side of the road. She is clearly in a state. She has been injured. There's clearly something going on. And then the story takes off from there. And like, mind you, these are absolutely two white people. And the way they talk about how they are like segregated out, and no, I don't know what happened. I don't know how this made it past an editor. I really don't. And I don't want to hate on Simone St. James because I haven't read enough of her works to like really say anything about her. The only other book I've read from her was the Book of Cold Cases, and I like that one. I feel like the paranormal element to that really worked. And this one, I don't feel like it worked at all, and we never get an explanation of necessarily why everything is happening. We get the connection to like this married couple, but we don't really ever get an answer of like why. And it's just so infuriating. And there's so many other plot holes, and I just really didn't enjoy the characters. I don't need to say anything else about it. Let's move on to some books I actually like enjoyed for the most part. And that is my 3 stars. The first one that I have is A Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This one I listened solely on audio because I knew that it was mixed media, and let me tell you, that is the way to experience this book. It includes a podcast, which I know for some people is so overdone, but for me, I really enjoy a mixed media element to it, and this audiobook delivered on that. We get snippets of the podcast in between each chapter. We can hear like interview things happening. There's also an element to our main character which is really expressed in the audiobook. I don't want to say or spoil anything, but it was really funny, and listening to it definitely heightened the experience, and there were a few moments where I actually like laughed out loud because it was just so ridiculous, but it was so funny, and I feel like the audiobook is so well done. So if you're gonna read this one, definitely check out the audiobook. In this one, we are following Lucy, and she has been accused but never acquitted of her best friend Savvy, and she is the main suspect, but they can never prove that it was her, and she does not remember what happened that night. And that's one of the things that I like didn't really enjoy about this book, as I feel like the forgotten trope is really overdone these days. So this is totally just like a personal preference. I feel like I've read a lot of thrillers with that forgotten trope, and it doesn't work. I did read one other thriller this month that does include it, but it worked in that way, and I will explain why when we get there. But in this one, I just feel like it was so overdone and just kind of didn't leave me with anything new in that department. So there's that. But other than that, we are following her as she's trying to kind of uncover her memories alongside this podcast host who is also trying to figure out what happened that night. And we get interviews from all of the main players and Lucy's family, because obviously they've been alongside her the whole time, and it takes place in a really small town, so everyone is really connected and everyone like knows each other. They still live there. There's all of that going on, which I enjoyed because it was definitely like small town gossip. And let me tell you, the grandmother in this book, oh, she is so sassy, and we stan her. We stan her. She is hilarious. So she definitely brought like an element of enjoyment to the book, but overall it didn't leave me like shocked. It didn't leave me dumbfounded. I just enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed listening to it. It was a good audiobook. I would definitely recommend it if you are looking for a good thriller audiobook. For me, it was just okay as a story overall. And then my other 3-star this month was the 11th volume of Spy Family. I've continued on, read all of them as they've come out, and this one is just okay. This one, I just feel like we're getting away from what I love in the series, and that is just the core of the family being together, of like seeing Anya interact at school and with her parents, and just seeing like how all of them interact with each other. Like, I feel like we're losing that a lot, and we're going off in all of these different directions, and it's like fun, it's a lighthearted time, but I definitely think as the series has gone on, my enjoyment has definitely gone down. It's just something fun. It's like a palate cleanser in between everything else. So I'll continue with the series, I think, but it's definitely not bringing me as much joy as I was getting when I first started the series. Moving on to our 4 stars, my first one was the next in the Veronica Speedwell series. This was a Dangerous Collaboration. This is Veronica Speedwell number 4, I believe, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was a fun time. This one is definitely most like an Agatha Christie, which is why it wasn't necessarily like a full 5 stars for me, because I just don't enjoy that style of mystery as much anymore, where we're like secluded on an island, something happens, someone dies, and we have to figure out what happened, and we're unpacking this mystery. This mystery definitely had a lot of layers to it, so that's why I enjoyed it a little bit more than had it just been like the typical kind of Agatha Christie kind of trope. I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much, but this one had a lot of layers, so it definitely brought something different, but we're still in that environment, and I just found myself a little bit like, okay, we can... I'm ready for the next one. However, there's some things that happen in this book, and I'm here for it, and it's just so good. It's so good. I feel like every single time I review one of these, I'm like, Veronica and Stoker. I mean, what else do you want? But also, this one, at the beginning, I was viscerally despising Stoker's brother, Tiberius. Like, viscerally. I even messaged Katie Colson. She is like a Veronica Speedwell stan, and I messaged her and I was like, I am not here for this man. Do not. I'm getting the ick from him. I really don't like it. And then as the story goes on, I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. I am eating my words. I take back what I said, and now I can get behind Tiberius. I can. I think he's going to bring a lot. I think he's going to bring a lot to the series as it goes on. So I take it back. Tiberius for the win, and I just can't wait to continue, especially after that ending. No. I already have the next one checked out from the library. I'll be reading it in May. I cannot wait. I just love this series so much, and I can't tell you anything specifically about these books because it'll spoil it, but just know if you love a good mystery, you need to read these. These are so good. They're so good. And then my next 2 4 stars are actually in the like 4.25, 4.5 territory. I just cannot figure out my exact rating. So we're gonna call them 4.5s. It could be a little bit lower, it could be a little bit higher, you know, I don't know. It depends upon the day. And the first one is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is my first Brandon Sanderson, which makes me really happy, and I really enjoyed this. I mean, what's not to enjoy, really? You have an adventure story, you have pirates, you have all of these different creatures, there's fantasy, there's a mystery going on. It's just all there. It's such a good time. There's just something about it that made me not have that like 5-star feeling, and I can't quite explain what it is, because I know this book is on so many people's top books of last year, and I get it. I get why, but for me personally, there's just something missing. If you ask me what that is, I cannot explain it to you. So this is purely based off feels, which is why I can't really decide on my rating. Like some days I'm like, oh, it's a 4.25, 4.5, it's a 4. It's all in there. I feel like maybe it's just because I'm already forgetting a little bit of that, and like my 5 stars like sit in my core. Like I remember them. I remember the characters. I remember everything that happens. I remember all my favorite parts about the plot. Like I know them to my core, and this one isn't sitting with me that same way, so maybe that's why. Regardless, it's still incredible, and it has found family, which is one of my favorite tropes corpse on the ever-loving planet. This one is about Tress. She has fallen in love with a boy named Charlie. He is like involved in the royal family or what have you, and he gets taken away and she sets off an adventure to go find him. This is a very loose synopsis because I really don't want to give anything away, because I do feel like the adventure in this is like the best part. Basically has to like kind of complete this quest to be able to find him and bring him back, and she meets a cast of characters along the way. Like I said, there's pirates, there's creatures, there's all these sorts of like magic bits that go on, and it's just a good time. There's also a rat, which is like a main character in the book, and that was really enjoyable. There was also some really good plot twists at the end, and my only thing about this whole like love interest thing is that I just felt like Charlie was just like a little bit too soft, in my personal opinion. But at the same time, Tress is so headstrong that I can like see their dynamic, you know, I can see it. But it just, for me, as like an overall love interest, I was like, oh, he's falling a little flat for me. But that's just a personal preference. Overall, I really enjoyed this. It has everything that I would love in like a cozy fantasy with just like a little bit higher stakes. It's not as low fantasy as like Legends and Lattes. It's definitely a higher stakes, but it's still so cozy and brings in that found family, and I just had a great time. And my other one that kind of fits in that category of the 4.25, 4.5 is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I actually just did a full vlog on this, which I will link in the cards as well as below, so I'm not gonna like spend a ton of time talking about this, but I had a great time reading this. This is the Holly Jackson that I know and love. It didn't give me all of the feels like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder did. I am a Good Girl's Guide to Murder stan. I love that series so much, but specifically the first one, it's just incredible. So this didn't give me like the full 5-star feeling that did, but I still really enjoyed this one. This one we are following Belle. When she was just 2 years old, her mother was taken out of the car when they were on their way home from the mall one day, and she obviously does not remember what's going on. So this was where I was saying we have that kind of forgotten trope, but like girlfriend was 2 years old. Like you can't expect her to remember. It's not like it happened when she was a teenager and she's not remembering. She was 2. Of course she doesn't remember. She barely remembers her mother at that point. And we are following a film documentary as they are investigating this case, and they're interviewing Belle, they're interviewing all of the family members, they're interviewing the police, and they trying to like solve what's going on. And then one day, and this is not a spoiler because it literally, as you can imagine, the reappearance of Rachel Price, her mom shows up again one day, and things go off from there. There were so many twists and turns in here, and the mystery overall of like what happened to her, where has she been, is just like, it's so layered that you are trying to solve this alongside Belle, but at the same time, you're like, what is going on? I don't trust anyone in this book at all, and that's what I loved about it. Just when I was like, but what about this person? And then it just goes on and on and on and on. And one thing that this book did extremely well, or should I say what Holly Jackson did really well, was she did not leave any stone like unturned. Every single question you could possibly have, because this is a lot of layers in this mystery, gets answered. There is no plot holes whatsoever, and that's what I love, because I have read a lot of thrillers that leave a lot of plot holes, i.e. Murder Road. This one, none. Literally every single question you get answered, and everything wraps up, not in a pretty little bow, but everything wraps up, and I just really enjoyed it. I got so invested in this mystery. I had to know what was going on, and this family and their dynamics, like, ooh, it was like juicy. I couldn't look away. Book is 430 pages, and I read it so fast. So fast. It's such a page turner. I really enjoyed it. This is the Holly Jackson that I love, and I just cannot wait to see what she does next. And then the 5 stars. And these two, I genuinely cannot pick between them at the moment which one I loved more. I love them both so much. The first one is the one that I got from the library, and then immediately, like when I say immediately, I mean immediately, ran to Barnes & Noble to pick up a copy of it, is A Fragile Enchantment by Alison Saft. I have not read an Alison Saft before, but now I definitely want to. I want to check out her other book. I forget what it's called. A Far Wilder of Magic. That's the one that I saw going around. I haven't read it. Now I want to, because her writing is absolutely gorgeous. This book, if you enjoyed season 2 of Bridgerton with Anthony and Kate, this book is like this season of Bridgerton wrapped into a book. They're dynamic. In this one, we are following Neve, and she is a seamstress, and she takes on the job of designing the entire like wardrobe for this royal wedding that's coming up. And then we have Kit, who is basically the grumpiest of grumpiest humans, plagued by his family legacy, shall we say, has to participate in all of the upcomings. He is Anthony, okay? Like, he understands he has family responsibility, but he doesn't want to be there. So we have, like, their dynamic of, like, he has to go to her and kind of figure out what he's gonna wear, and, you know, there's this whole royal wedding happening, and then there's also an element of, like, magic to this as well, because Neve has powers that she can like sew into the garments that she makes, and it just is blossoming between her and Kit's relationship, but they are full-on enemies. Like, they do not like each other, but do they? And it has all of the Regency vibes that you could ever want. When I say, oh my god, how many times can I say it? But like, it's so true. This is Bridgerton in a book, and I just had the best time. I was frustrated, I was fully invested, I was kicking my feet, I was shoving this book away from me because I was really mad, and then like pulling me back in because I had to read the rest of it immediately, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. Not only is the writing gorgeous, the way the story is told is just so seamless. And another thing that I really loved is that a lot of the side characters and the side relationships in here are queer, which like you don't get a lot when it comes to Regency books. So I'm really appreciative of that. I feel like that added like another level of enjoyment to it. I was like, good on Alison Saft. Thank you for that, because we need that representation like it is in Bridgerton. I can't say enough about it. I also just am so in love with this copy. Not only are the colors on the front like that much more emphasized, we have these gorgeous end papers, and then we have her shears on the front. This is why I needed to go to Barnes & Noble to get it, because I needed this copy of it. I am absolutely obsessed. This is like springtime perfectly in a book, and I just love it. But it's also like equally dark, but it's also romantic. It's infuriating. The romance in here is so cute and good, but like also infuriating, and I just had a blast. I had a blast. 5 stars immediately. Will definitely be on my favorites list of the year. Where it will fall, I'm not sure, because this next book equally is going to be there, and I can't decide. I cannot decide. And that book is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli, and oh my word, this book is so well written, and the concept of the magic in here is one of the best things that I have ever seen. Also, the sun is now gracing us with its presence, so I apologize if the lighting just changed, but oh my goodness, one of my favorite, I almost like don't want to say it because I don't want to ruin it, because I feel like it was an element to this book that I did not know about, and once I started reading it and figuring it out, I was like, my jaw was on the floor, and I was like kicking my feet with excitement because I have never seen it done in a book before. This book was made for the women, okay? This book was made for any person out there who has a monthly cycle. That's all I'm gonna say. That is all I'm gonna say. I don't want to say anything more about that side of it, because it was truly just an experience, and I want you to have that for yourself. But I was just, oh, Loved it, loved it, loved it. It instantly connected me to this book. In this one, we are following Rune, and she is a witch. This is coming like the aftermath of this revolution where witches are seen as the enemy. So she spends her life kind of going under the radar because witches are hunted now, and so no one knows that she is a witch other than some few close people in her life. So we're following her story, and we are also following the story of Gideon Sharp, who is a witch hunter. And as you can imagine, him being a witch hunter, her being a witch, their paths cross and the story goes from there. This also includes not just a love interest, but a love triangle. And let me tell you, I loved the dynamic of it, and I honestly did not know where I sat in the love triangle the entire time that I was reading this. I was like, ooh, I don't know, am I on this side or am I on this side? I do not know, and I love that about it. I really could have gone either way because I saw both sides of it, and then at the end, I'm not gonna lie, I got a little misty, okay? There's just a beautiful ending, tragic, and I just loved it. It was stunning, and it made me get a little teary, but also it felt really powerful at the same time. I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to give anything about this book away. I need you to read it. If you are a romantasy gal, this is going to be the romantasy of the year. Well, I mean, they both could be, but like these two, kicking, screaming, will not shut up about them. I can't stop talking about them. I am in love. I need to just read more books like this, but also I don't know how I'm going to talk. Like it gives me the same feeling that I got when I read Belladonna, Divine Rivals. I just need to be in worlds like this all of the time, especially all of the women. I need you to read this because it's powerful. It is powerful. You will see what I mean when you read it. So here's your sign. You need to read it now. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of April. Like I said, an overall good reading month. Some new faves, and I will never stop talking about them. So if you haven't read them yet, please let me know in the comments if you plan to now. I also would love to know what your favorite book was of April, or maybe if you had a few like me that you can't decide between, that's okay, you can leave that too. I would just love to hear all of your thoughts and feels. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe if you are not already. Turn the bell so you never miss a video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye! I cannot feel my feet anymore. I really need to stop filming on the floor.
With you and I, the future is bright.